So, shall I say taxing, to say the least? Amplifier, subwoofer. One with the best amplifier, the 5-channel one. But the biggest question is, well, one of the biggest questions is, where do I mount it? I don't necessarily want to put it in the trunk, which is the most commonplace. Thinking about putting that on some boards and just setting it in like that. It won't fit under the back seat. It won't fit under the front seat. You know, I took it out. There's no room. I could get half of the subwoofer, and then it would stick out into this floorboard, and then it'd be hard to get to the controls. That's another one of my major concerns is accessibility. I could tuck it away up under the package tray, and then, it's just hard to get to the buttons. This, man, we can work with this. There's a whole bunch more buttons on the end of this. Dials, and I don't know anything about amplifiers and setting them and all that good stuff. Gotta figure out all these wires. Anyway. So my question is where am I going to put it? I can set a piece of wood under there, screw the wood to the top part of the drive shaft tunnel, transmission tunnel. Put a piece of wood across there, mount both of these to the wood, and they'll be secure, won't be flopping around. That's another possible position. No one's going to be sitting in the back seat, so I'm not worried about that. And since nobody's going to be sitting back there, maybe I'll just set it in the seat. But I don't know how to mount it in the seat. I do want it to keep it from bouncing around. There's a lot of work to do to put the retro sound in. Got the radio all together. It's got to set in one piece just like I got it, and then mount it because someone cut the thing out that these knobs would have gone through the holes. Somebody cut the whole thing out, so this will just slide right in. And then all those things, got to learn how to solder these ends to get them kind of like pre-made, as well as this one. So I'm just kind of showing these have to go to the battery terminals and up, and then these do something. I got the Sirius XM and a few more bags of things. And let's go look at one more position of the amp and the subwoofer. Looks nice. I like that. So before I forget, see those chrome knobs? That's what retro sound sends. That will be the dial knob there. I got these knobs off eBay, particularly for 77, 78 Trans Am. They need to be black and outlined in that chrome. But they wouldn't fit on these stock retro sound. They wouldn't fit on the ends of them. So I got them on there, and they're totally functional, and this is going to be right. Now, little push buttons. So they're on, good to go. But the way I did it, I got to talk you through it. I didn't record it. It's got 2 prongs on it. On the end, I filed it or cut one side off, and then I filled the knob up with that glue from a glue gun. So the glue gun filled up the knob, and then I just put the knob on there, and there you go. Not as square as I wish it was, but when it's sitting still, you don't know. But yeah, I just wanted to tell you that's how I got the Pontiac black chrome knobs to look a little more stock. This is day 2, getting this subwoofer and that amp installed. Kind of identifying the wires, what they are and where they're going. You know, it's not that hard, but the fishing, the burying, it's interesting. So anyway, that blue wire is the remote, and these RCA connectors that are coming from the amp over there. This black wire is some kind of either gain control or subwoofer control. There's 2 of them, 2 controls that'll go in here. So there's the cord to one, and there's the cord to the other. It's sitting down in there. So I have labeled the other ends of these. The power wire from the battery is that red one. That blue one's from the trunk. That's not related to what I'm doing. But that red one goes to my battery. The red's positive, the black is ground. There's the black ground one. It's so short that I guess I'm just gonna have to put it on the amp there and just ground it to the seatbelt bolt or something back in here, which is okay. I've labeled the ends of these so that I can remember. The blue one, like I said, is well, they call it turn on lead. And then I have 3 of these RCA connectors. So I've labeled them. This one, of course, goes to the subwoofer. And the channels for the amplifier, I labeled channel 1 and 2. 1 is red, so 2 will be the black one. And then 3 is the red one, and 4 is the black one. So they're all labeled. And this yellow one is the power that I got to take again to the battery for the subwoofer. I'll just splice it in, I suppose, with the red one. That's the back of the radio right there. And I just want to show you the channel 1, 2, 3, and 4 are right here. So they'll just plug into those. Those RCA connectors will just plug into there. And this, not sure. External mic, the microphone, so you can talk on the phone. This is the radio antenna. It'll plug in there. These 2 we'll talk about later. They're up here in these bags. The Sirius XM is right here. So that'll just plug in under the dash, and all this will be stored under the dash. This is the antenna. It needs to be, I guess, near the outside, or someplace where we can get communication. And then that subwoofer, easily enough, goes right in these 2 blue ones. The red one needs to be identified, I think, or maybe they're not polarized like these red and white ones are. And that blue one, both of these, the black and white, they'll plug into this big old harness here, and one of them strictly for speakers. I believe that's this one, and this one I have labeled as that turn on lead, the blue one. So it'll go under the dash and splice into this. That's where I am on day 2. I found these spacers in the packaging, and they're pretty stout. They won't squeeze, but I suppose they're to absorb the vibration from the subwoofer. So I'm going to put these under there in between the wood, in between there. So sounds right, They do, well, the good ones put out some good vibration. So yeah. Well, here I am, end of another day. Keep caught up with this progress. I'm going to tape down the end of that, make it a little prettier. But I like the way that conceals in there. I got the power red and that power yellow. That power yellow goes right here to the subwoofer. Running it to one side, all the way to the battery, that yellow and red. So I can keep the RCA and the speaker wires right here under the center column. So kind of getting that ready right now, the speaker wire harness and this and that. The grounds are yet to do. That black wire and that tannish brown one, that's kind of a weird color. But yeah, making progress. We'll get a little bit more done tomorrow. I guess I'll show this off. It's done. It's all done. Got in there. So, see you tomorrow. Little update from the intro of this video. That was wrong earlier. So correction to be made. This plug plugs into this plug. That great big plug there goes to the radio. So just so you know, this plugs into there. And this plug is identified as the power side, or the power inputs, as it says. It's upside down. But the blue and white one on the bottom says amp turn on. Amp turn on being the blue wire, that's in the directions as turn on lead. And that is from the subwoofer. And that little plug right there in the beginning of the subwoofer is the turn on lead. Now the amp has a turn on lead right between the battery power and the ground. So there's two blue wires for turn on leads that go to this harness here. Don't pay any attention to blue or blue with a white tracer. Just because this amp here, see the blue with the white tracer? That is the amp on cable. So I brought that blue with that white there, I brought it over and spliced it in to the one from the radio. And that goes, of course, to the amplifier, as the directions show, right between the hot and the negative. But I spliced them together so I don't have to bring two wires to the radio. I'm just going to bring this one to the radio. I just want to be clear that when you're doing the Technophonic amp with the 8100 subwoofer, they call it Sub 81, Subwoofer 8100. So when you're tying both of them together, you need these four right here, channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. Channel 5 right there, I thought might be for the subwoofer. So I plugged these subwoofer RCAs, red and black. I plugged them in there wrongly. So remember that the subwoofer RCA jacks go to the subwoofer, the Sub 81, not the Technophonic amp. And then the subwoofer plugs into what's obviously labeled subwoofer. These two blue RCAs, they're not red and white like these channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I suppose it doesn't matter which one the red or the black goes into. Just saying. Without getting into too much detail, this is where most people would turn around and fear, even avoid doing this particular part of the project, because I don't know how to mount the speaker. I don't know if the stereo will even fit in that hole. I don't know if I can work in such tight spaces, you know, to get all the speaker wires and the keyed power and the constant power and get all the wires run and hidden and to work when I'm all done. So I have to lay down in this comfortable little bed that is not comfortable. Matter of fact, you'll see that box over there is the perfect size pillow for my head because it slopes down so much to the pedals that it's impossible to lay that way. So as big as that box is, that's a good size pillow for my head. But you just got to pick up the hammer and start swinging. So here we go. Now remember, retro sound fans, this is for you. If you get in the Technophonic and the Subwoofer 8100 and interfacing them, there's no, what's that called, company display how-tos. They still figuring it out themselves. I have absolutely almost begged with them to stay on the phone until I got an answer on how to wire this thing. So the latest update is, if you have the MP4 motor, they call it a motor, it's not a head end unit anymore, it's not a radio, it's a motor. Okay, so if you have the MP4, I'll make sure I'm saying that right in a minute. It has the RCA cables 1, 2, 3, and 4, channels 1, 2, 3, and 4 that go into the back of the Technophonic amp. That's channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. That does away with these channels 1, 2, 3, and 4. Channel 5 being the subwoofer, again, it's not used. The subwoofer RCA plugs into the input. So there you go, channel 1, 2, 3, 4 subwoofer, and all, we've got to say 6 of those RCAs plug into the back of the MP4. So that is done. That's how you wire the channels. Now the speakers, you got 4 speakers coming in on four wires. The speakers plug into that white. They go right to that black thing. See the purple and the gray and the white and the green? That's speaker wires. All your speaker wires plug into that. Your speaker wires, actual speaker wires, go through the unit. It goes through, comes out of the RCA, comes into the RCA, into the amp, and it does its thing somehow, because I guess then it back feeds back. And power to the, got to get battery power on this yellow wire right here, and you got to ground this black wire. So that's an update on how to do it. Now I'm getting into the Sirius XM. So I gotta have that because I gotta listen to my 60s, 70s music while I'm driving this car. It's a must. So I ran this little cable all the way to the front of my Trans Am. Under the fender, everything's gonna be hidden, you know, and then it comes out right here. I'm gonna take this part and put it under here, as close to the outside as possible, but nobody's gonna see it under here. So I'll just duck and dive it under there, and that's where I'm gonna stick it. All right, a little update. Made a lot of progress today, or feel like I did. All I have to do back here is put the grounds somewhere, and then I can put the back seat back in and button this all up. Everything under the dash is finished for the radio, that is. That over the gas pedal needs pushed up and secured out of the way. Hopefully everything else will be hidden out of sight, out of mind. I brought the mic for the phone over here with the charger, and that's final. So yeah, just clean that up and go out to. So yeah, the only thing I have to do is put that yellow and the red wire onto that positive battery terminal. I need to find another bolt to hold that positive cable onto the battery because it's just pretty short. And of course, finish mounting this Sirius XM, you know, up under the nose. Not much to it. This is the bolt I took out of the battery. The threads are just too short and a little too big to fit through the holes, you know, of the two hot wires. So I took that out, and I happen to have, in my little electrical box here, what I needed. So I happen to have what I needed for the two power cables. The yellow one came with a 10 amp fuse in it. It asked for a 15 amp. And the only reason I know it asked for a 15 amp is because they sent another one of these little clear plastic things with a 15 amp fuse. So I don't know why this yellow one has a pre-installed 10 amp. I put a 15 amp in it and just opted out of doing another plastic one. There's the fuse in there. So I'm going to try to show you that bolt. It might change direction. Go thin screen on you. Well, there's that bolt, that battery terminal that I happen to have, and oh, is it convenient. So that concludes the project. You know, the power's hooked up, the ground's hooked up. The picture of the radio head unit, as we used to say, now is called Motor 4 HD. There's a picture of it to follow. So thanks for watching, and the next video will be actually tuning things in and maybe seeing how it sounds, you know, in fear of copyright strikes. So appreciate you watching.